Hello everyone, I'm Carlos Hernandez from the Delft University of Technology, and I'm here as coordinator of the ROSIN European project that probably most of you have already heard about, but if you didn't, now it's a good opportunity to get some idea of how we are supporting ROS-Industrial in Europe with European funding to move and to contribute to the next to move robotics to the next level in industry, basically. Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, so this is our logo, which is not the ROS-Industrial logo because of requirements. But we are no different than ROS-Industrial. This is something I want to clarify. ROSIN is just one support action for ROS-Industrial in Europe. It's nothing different or alternative. It's just a European project that is supporting ROS-Industrial. That's an important point I wanted to make, even if you see that logo that is an adaptation of the ROS-Industrial logo on the screen. So to give you a bit of more personal context, I'm coming from the Delft University of Technology, in which there is an intensive and extensive research on robotics in many different areas across different faculties, all of these under the umbrella and direction of the Robotics Institute in Delft. And concretely, I'm coming from the new department of cognitive robotics, in which we are exploring the more advanced aspects of intelligent robotics. And in the robot dynamics group, led by Professor Martijn Wiese, also here, we are exploring how robots can cope better with uncertainty in the environment, both from the low-level aspects of sensory motor loops that can adapt to noisy signals, perturbances. And in that front, we are exploring new neuroscientific theories of the brain, concretely the free energy principle, by a potential Nobel Prize, and exploring how we can exploit these neuroscientific theories in robotics, and also at the high level, at the mission level, how this adaptation to noisy and uncertain environments can be dealt with while ensuring meeting core requirements for missions in, for example, safety critical applications. And in that front, I'm exploring model-based knowledge representation and how we can exploit those at runtime through what I call metacontrollers. But in our cheers. See that I like seeing that this is getting the people excited and the years to celebrate what we are doing in robotics. So on our journey in creating more advanced robots, we have been discovering that software plays a key role, right? I think everyone here acknowledges that, and that's why we are all here and connecting to ROS-Industrial. So in multiple European projects, for example, the Factory in a Day, we have been pushing the advanced capabilities in robotics to the limit of integrating them in an application. And that was the seed for, or the inception of the ROSIN project. Because there was already a community in ROS-Industrial trying to apply and integrate entire applications using ROS for real cases, not just research or prototypes. And then we identified the core problems that were blocking transferring that technology into real applications. And therefore, we decided to apply for funding from the European Commission to try to solve those blocking aspects in Europe. And that's ROSIN, what we call ROS-Industrial Quality Assured Robot Software Components. And it's a very long name for a project that simply tries to make ROS usable in industry, basically. And targeting these difficulties, which are mainly related to the quality of the source code, but also the availability of software. Basically, there are not that many components that you can use off the shelf for your applications. Or there weren't some years ago. Now that I will present some of the results we're getting that from. But there was also the need to educate the new users. So if ROS is to come to the factory floor, there is people that have been trained in other technologies that now need to be trained in ROS. And that was another aspect that we wanted to tackle in the project. And so these three aspects were our focus and our target. And we got a 4 years, 8 million project to try to overcome these difficulties. And we were departing from the existing and thrilling ROS industrial community in Europe. So we were departing from a very good base, I would say, and therefore the results I will present shortly we are getting, I think. Just to put a bit more of context on this project, it's not a standalone project by the European Commission, but it's part of a strategic agenda to achieve a European digital industrial platform for robotics. And we are tackling that from the platform-specific side with ROS, but there are other projects trying to move robotics technology to the factory floor using a model-based approach. That's the case for Romosis, and we will get, I think, a very nice presentation later today on that project. Also trying to make it available for embedded devices with the micro-ROS project. And I think his coordinator is also present during the conference, and he presented last year. You can connect with them. There is also Robotinet that my colleagues at IPA and probably other attendants are participating with already successful results, but also the HORSE project, InBots, and many more European initiatives that are all striving for this common digital industrial platform for robotics, which is not a homogeneous platform. It's meant to be heterogeneous because the industry is heterogeneous, but to cover all needs and all needed aspects in industry. So what concrete actions are we doing in ROSIN? As I mentioned, we are tackling 3 problems. One is the quality of the code. And on that line, we have one strategic action that will be presented later. We are doing education in ROS. And we are funding the development of software because there was not enough available. So we decided if we can speed up the creation of software, of more available components, and make the quality, ensure the quality of those that are already in a prototype phase, move them to the reusable component of the shelf phase, the entire community would benefit. So these are the 3 aspects that I want to mention during my talk. So starting with quality assurance, this is what I'm going to say. Teaser at 5 a.m. Later, my colleagues Adam and Sulay from ITU in Denmark will be presenting the progress with the creation of tools and the fostering of discussion in the community about quality assurance tools we are doing in ROS. So stay tuned at 5 for more information on what we are doing regarding quality assurance. Regarding education, another talk. So I'm just here to introduce the following talks, actually. At 4:10, my colleagues Stefan Calveit and Jonathan Eschbauer from Fraunhofer will be presenting the initiatives they are developing both here in Stuttgart at IPA and in the Fachhochschule Aachen to educate students, but also professionals in ROS. And not only students and professionals, but also future ROS trainers, because we want to spread the ROS education, and we know we are limited in the number of people, but we can multiply the effect of the project. So we are eager to learn from other people trying to teach ROS for professionals or for students, and try to support them as far as we can. So, my presentation will introduce ROSIN, done. Now I will briefly explain what we are doing in Delft regarding ROS education, and I will present the results we are already obtaining with our funding program for ROS technology. So in Delft, we have just started official trainings, ROS Industrial Academies in the Robo House within the Delft campus, where we have 800 square meters dedicated to robotics, to testing, to have both end users and robot developers interact, connect, discover the needs, the pains, their challenges. We will be doing trainings with already performed pilots, but in 2019, next year, there will be already 2 trainings scheduled at least, one in February 14 and 15, and another one in May 16 and 17. So if you are in the area of the Benelux or elsewhere, or you are looking for some ROS training, please stay tuned. You can check the website of the Robo House for more details on the program. So this is one initiative on-site we have in Delft. And the other big initiative we have developed within the ROSIN project is an online course in ROS. It's available for free on the EDX platform. EDX platform is now switching a bit their business model. So for the moment, you can access the contents, and you will be able to do so, but with some time constraints in the upcoming year, probably due to the new model. But the contents are available. The videos are in YouTube. We already ran one edition of this course, instructor pays. So students register in September for 6 weeks with a workload of around 8 hours a week, learning the basics of ROS, but with a very practical approach in which the last, all the course was aimed for the students to be able to integrate an entire robotic industrial application. And that's quite challenging, considering that they were departing from basic Linux knowledge, but really, really basic. So of course, during the course, you don't learn to create from scratch such an application. But that's not what ROS is about, right? ROS is about being able to reuse standard components and integrate your own application. And that's what we teach them to do. We teach them to understand the ROS technology and be able to use it. And we got quite some nice feedback from the students. They were very enthusiastic about being able to integrate such an application in only 6 weeks. So I encourage all of you that maybe are looking for some training content or materials for employees, students. This is a nice way to get started in ROS, and then can be complemented with many other online resources that are available to go in depth into specific topics that, as Martin explained, such deep learning, reinforcement learning, specific applications, pick and place. Then you have other a lot of resources to dive into. Another activity we wanted to perform during ROSIN was to connect through internships the newly taught students, ROS knowledgeable, with companies that needed new employees that were mastering or aware of ROS and being able to use ROS. So we have started a website to offer these internships, but then we discovered that there is no use for additional websites to those that are already available, where you can find ROS jobs, such ROS Discourse. So if you are looking for interns, please publish there your internships, but also a nice way to connect to students is actually to participate in the ROS education activities. So you can sponsor, for example, ROS trainings, ROS schools. We have some nice examples in the ROS school that Fachhochschule Aachen organizes every year, in which some companies like Magazino, I'm not sure whether it is someone from Magazino, but they were telling us that it was a great experience for them just to sponsor a barbecue in the event and be able to connect with that many students or potential employees, basically, that were mastering the skills and had the talent they were looking for. So this is a nice opportunity for companies looking for ROS experts to just reach to the students, and through the trainings, that's a very good way, basically. And now the main focus of my talk and the follow-up session is our focus technical projects, which are the projects we are funding through our goals. So you will learn better about what the experience is, what kind of projects you can develop with our funding by attending the next talk, in which you will learn from Nobleo in the Netherlands, Roboception and Pils in Germany, and PPM Robotics in Norway, about how to develop ROS, how you can benefit from ROSIN, and what use of ROS technology are some companies doing. Some really good use, I would say. So talking about the call, for all of you that are not aware, how many of you have never heard of the ROSIN funding program? If I may ask you to raise your hands. Everyone knows about it. Not that many people. So, okay. Some people don't know about it. So it's good to see that most of you already know. Then we are doing a good job lately disseminating our funding program. So then maybe it's a bit superfluous, but what we are offering is funding that is not 100% of the project budget. That's different from a standard European funding, because we want to market pool. So we want to fund technology that is useful and relevant for industry. And being so, then those that want to create this technology shouldn't find it hard to get some extra funding from customers to develop this technology. And that's why we only fund 1/3 of the project. We are basically lowering the risk of such project for those that are actually interested in it, so that we expect other companies or the company itself to fund through in-house development the other 2/3 of the project. So we are basically lowering the risk perceived about open source and ROS, so that people can get a taste of it and then continue the development. So we fund 1/3. The projects are small. We are looking forward to fund components, specific pieces of technology, not large frameworks. There are other funding sources for that. So we fund projects that are a maximum of 300,000 euros in budget, and we fund only 100K maximum. And we are also funding education actions. Who can benefit? Those that are H2020 eligible entities, companies, SMEs, research centers, universities that are in Europe and within the European Union or associated countries. And we are looking for small consortiums. It should be 1, 2, maybe 3 partners, not much. We are funding the small projects. We don't want to fund the overhead management. We are only funding hours of development, basically. So the call is available and will remain so till we run out of funds. Be fast, because we are actually now running out of funds quicker. And the application is really simple. We are targeting very concrete cases, so you should be able to explain why you want to do what you want to do, what you want to do, and how you plan to implement it in a very concise way, with enough technical details. This is going to be evaluated by technical experts, so we want to hear what's the actual implementation plan, and we want to know that you understand the challenges involved in your project. And of course, you need to commit to fund the remaining 2/3 of the project. Next, so the call is permanently open, but to handle that many evaluations, we need to organize ourselves. So we fix some dates in which we just check the pool of projects we have, and then we evaluate them. The next of such dates will be April the 5th. So if you are planning to submit in the next round, please before April the 5th, because from that date on, we will be evaluating the new pool of project applications. There will be more calls during 2019 anyway. So what's the scope of this FTPs, focused technical projects. We are targeting all the industrial application areas, meaning standard factory floor robot manipulators, but also intralogistics, mobile robots, outdoors mobile robots, agriculture, drones, etc. Anything that is an industrial case and not limited to the shop floor is welcome. And of course, we are open both to ROS-I and ROS-II developments, with an increasing interest in ROS-II, seeing the latest developments and movements in the community. We see that ROS-II is really catching up for the industrial case. So we are welcoming ROS-II applications. So this focused technical approach should target a concrete business need, software development, but also definition of technical standards, security license audits. So this means that we are not limited to, but of course include the development of hardware-related components, many drivers, but also configuration tools, ROS enhancement proposals, improvements on existing components, but also new implementations of solutions, new algorithms to be implemented, or existing algorithms and enhancing their implementation, improving, optimizing them, but also application templates. We have some examples of such projects that you can check. Improvement I already mentioned. Process-related works, for example, licensing audits, code scanning, security audits, improvement of documentation. One of the main difficulties when reusing ROS components is that some of them are not properly documented. And even if the quality of the software is great, that hampers the reusability of the software. So if someone is planning to improve the documentation and the usability of a package, that can also be an initiative that we can fund. And of course, integration with other software frameworks and standards. That's very important in industry, and we are also funding such efforts. And as we always mention, this is a non-exhaustive list. Probably we are leaving out in this list many other cases of ROS development that are relevant for the community and can benefit the entire community. So please tell us your ideas. We can guide on the definition of the FTP and apply. It's really time efficient to apply. As I mentioned, the application is really short. How you can apply? Well, you submit through our website a simple template. You just explain the challenge you are addressing, how you plan to address it, indicate a very clear work plan for it, typically something that you can perform within a year. This is an estimate. We are getting projects that can be done in 2 months or in 14 months, but that's kind of the range of projects we are aiming for. Then we run a quick, we try to be fast evaluating because we know some of these developments need to be done quickly. You cannot wait 2 years to decide whether you create that component. You probably will move to something different if you cannot implement that, because the pace of development in robotics is quite fast. So we are trying to be fast funding and evaluating the proposals. So you can expect an answer within 2-3 weeks since the cutoff date. And then typically, it takes some more time in the back and forth of signing the contract. But it's normally not because we take long with that, but just the bureaucracy even within the applicants themselves. So talking about that contract, we typically, upon signature, when you are selected, we pay 40% of the first milestone, and the rest is paid upon completion. Some more notes to clarify regarding our funding. We fund 1/3 of the software development efforts. That means that we are not covering hardware or traveling or demonstrators or overhead costs. we are applying the lump sum schema. That means that basically you are stating reasonable breakdown of the cost of the project, and then you issue us an invoice for the services. And we are paying that amount based on the results of the project. Of course, you indicate that breakdown so that we understand the cost involved in the project, but we are not upfront asking for timesheet of this kind of procedure. We are paying for that development in this lump sum schema. So to be very concrete, if you have a project budget that includes some hardware, some additional cost, and a total of person months in development, we are funding 1/3 of these person months of software development. And well, anyway, we are funding software projects, so we expect that to be the big part of the budget. More clarifications regarding the contract. The contract just states the obligation of the applicants to perform the work promised and deliver the outcome promised. They commit to fund the remaining 2/3 of the project that we are not funding. They will collaborate or at least connect and understand other developments when they are overlapping. We are getting some proposals that are covering similar application areas, for example, augmented reality. And well, it's sometimes a waste to have multiple efforts that actually don't know of each other trying to solve the same problem. So we will help you connect with relevant initiatives in that front, and we expect you to try to collaborate and reuse efforts as much as possible. Again, the lump sum schema, so no timesheets or overhead costs covered. And then the licensing, we expect you to open source your code in a ROS-friendly licensing schema, meaning Apache 2 or similar license, and explain why or why not. You would not open source with that license, but you can always define some background IP you are bringing into the project that you may want it to remain private, not open, but that needs to be clearly stated upfront so that it's clear what the open source part of the project would be and whether that is an outcome useful enough for the community. So just some numbers on how we are doing, how I'm doing time-wise.
You're not 2 minutes? 3 minutes?
Okay, perfect. So I will quickly go through some statistics of the goals. I call them, we are continuously open, but these are the pools of project we have of our selection rounds, let's say. So we have been getting more and more applications, and last time in November we got more than twice than in the previous round, with 21 applicants that we are still deciding upon. So we already funded 24 projects. We rejected 10 so far, and we have 21 under review right now. This is the forecast, and that's why I say apply soon in the next calls, because now we already gave away more than half of the funding we had, and we are midway the project. And this has ramped up a lot in the last, during the 2018. So you can expect that during 2019, I'm not sure whether we will end the year with some funding left. So try to apply soon in April, June maximum next year. It doesn't prevent that maybe we run another call. That's some statistics. It's interesting that most of our applicants are granted projects actually are from Germany and Spain. But it's quite distributed through the EU region, including associated countries as Turkey. Surprising that there are no more, given the size of the robotic field in France, for example. Type of entities benefiting, not surprisingly, system integrators, because those are probably the most interested in ROS. But we, of course, have original manufacturers with the drivers, and few research centers and universities, because our target is industry. Project categories is quite diverse. Again, drivers mainly, but also algorithms, application, templates, etc. And now some examples of these projects. This is from Robotics Language and Sensor were our two first funded projects. You will learn more about Visa for ROS by Roboception in the upcoming session. Same for coverage path planning. Civit ROS is another driver for a 3D camera by the manufacturer. ROSIN is a very interesting algorithm to calibrate the model of your industrial manipulator. We have an industrial mobile planning generator that will be presented later in detail. We have a pattern manager. It's an application template for multiple industrial applications. Some diagnostic and big data tool in Pole Statistics framework. We have Roswell that will be presented later also. Augmented reality in ROS and ROS2. That's one of the projects. We have another one here, RVS RVS 2R. This is using augmented reality also connected to mobile devices. ROS-Industrial Positioning, Indoor Positioning System. HRIM that will give a talk, I think, I saw Victor presenting probably tomorrow or Thursday, I'm not sure. Some libraries for drones, for agricultural robots with the ROS, some drivers for other actuators, IMC drives. And these are the projects that are in the contracting phase, and some of them I think will be presenting during the conference, such as Universal Robots, now supporting their own driver in ROS, but also a license audit scan provided by Bosch, more augmented reality in ROS, a tool to make some force sensors available in ROS, enhancement of ROS control that probably you are aware of, and security scan in Red ROS-I. So that's a quick overview of the projects. And that's it. We checked how our funding works, and then some input on the ROS education activities we have been doing. That was my update.